welcome to Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pannon.
I'm Vfire.
And
this is where David would be.
yeah, David's not feeling too well this week, so you just got the two of us, but you'll still get some announcements here from David, and
he's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, if you listeners at home want to, I don't have a cool segue this week, but if you want to reach out, and I feel like I'm off my game without David. If you guys want to reach out and send us your stories, your comments, episode ideas, anything like that, there's a number of ways you can do that. The first one is our email address, which is cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or
you can go to the website cosplaystitchandseam.com and fill out the contact forms there, or David will do his thing because he's awesome.
Yeah.
Or in the future, go to the Facebook page. Go visit our fantastic group of community of people who want to see what you're building, see what you're growing, see what you're changing. We all love to see that. Or go to our Discord, and while you're on the internet, if you want to help out the show, we really appreciate it. Share the podcast with a friend. Leave us a review. I'm off my game because I'm doing this super in post. And don't forget, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/cosplaystitch. For $3 a month, we give you a shout out on the show. And for $5 a month, you can join our Cosplay Chronicles. We play D&D. It's great. It's cosplay based. It's been a lot of fun. Come join us. All right, back to the actual episode now.
Yeah, so today...
What's today?
Our topic. Our topic today is essentially common questions that we get as competitors and judges, as well as kind of nitpicky ones, I feel.
Well, I think you brought this up to us in the first place as one that's talking about kind of the competition pitfalls, kind of things that you think you should spend a bunch of time or money or effort on that don't necessarily pay off.
Yeah, because there's this group that I actually highly recommend on Facebook if anyone is interested. It's the Cosplay Contest Support Group, and they ask some really great questions on there, and they have a really great support group. It's amazing. I love it. And I just kind of noticed over time, there's a lot of questions that are around things that it's we could probably generalize a bunch of these. So for starters, is essentially, if I do and fill in some technique here that you're ooh, this thing here, armor, embroidery, hand embroidery versus machine embroidery versus da-da-da-da-da, right? Will I score higher in the contest? You as a listener right now, think of a time when you've asked that question, with something and did you score higher with it? And why, if you did? Or why not? For me personally, I've tried doing something more complex and being this is going to look so cool to the judges. I'm going to try this out. And it ends up not impressing them because I did it not well.
Yeah, I think when you were first talking about this episode idea, it was, we were talking about how, and this isn't to dog on any one cosplayer or anything, of course, because I think this is something that we've all done or mentioned in judging, is when someone says,
I dog on myself.
When someone says, I spent this many hours on this part of the costume. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to say in judging. What matters though is what was the final result? Did it turn out very clean? Did it turn out very detailed? What did you use all those hours to do? And I think some of us get so caught up in, but I spent this many hours, without going but was I using those hours to make it, look really clean? Was I using it to make sure all my seams were finished? Was I using it to, do a really detailed embroidery, but maybe I forgot to use stabilizer, so it's all lumpy. So the number of hours doesn't necessarily going to be a sign of like whether or not your costume will be given more or less how do I want to say it
it's not gonna
competitive weight in your category, right? But that was like the very first one that came to mind, because I have definitely had projects where I just like poured in hours on a minor detail that didn't really matter, and then I had a seam that was unfinished, and it's like, during all of those hours, could I not have spent like an extra 20 minutes to make sure that this seam was finished? Kind of a thing. So it's like you're as a judge, you're kind of always balancing those two things. And that can be hard, because some people are going to be really excited to work on certain aspects of the costume where other things are not interesting, and it's really hard to like get through working on them. And I think that's one of the fun things about judging, is you can really tell where people put their time and energy. And it's really like exciting to hear about people talk about the parts that they're passionate about.
Yeah. Also, like I used to be like, oh my gosh, I made this cosplay in 2 weeks. I made this cosplay in 1 month. And when you get up to especially the higher levels, that becomes less impressive. Because it means you've cut corners somewhere.
Right.
And I did, there are some where I'm like, I made this so fast, and even if I would win anything with that costume, I would personally be disappointed in the pieces that I knew were rushed and already breaking apart after the contest.
Yeah.
It's like, it was great. It worked to get it up on stage, but outside of that, it didn't last. And so, it's like, that's great if you're doing it just for the contest and that's going to be one time done. But it's much better to spend the time on stuff. And again, like you said, Pannon, the time will show in your craftsmanship.
Right.
If you have your seams ironed, I almost said, no, that still would have worked. Ironed seams. My brain is not working. But like, if you take the time to, iron your seams before adding in the lining, and, making sure that each step is given the care that it needs, that's going to be far more impressive than however much time you spent on it. You can work on something for years and still have it not turn out. It sucks. I've had that happen before as well. And yeah, it sucks.
Sure.
But yeah, the time part's not the important thing. It's the end result.
Right. I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said. I was having a conversation with someone else about this earlier, about like how, if once you kind of get a discerning eye for your cosplay, like, when something you've done isn't up to where you want it to be, right? Like, like, oh, this hem turned out wobbly. I wish it hadn't turned out that way. I could go fix it. Compared to, I have run out of energy for working on this costume, and I just don't care that the hem is wobbly. It just kind of is what it is. And I don't think it's necessarily bad for either attitude. Is just that whatever you choose is going to be what you're judged on, right? So if you're seeing these mistakes and going like, oh, I see that that's a mistake, but, I want to be able to check this off my list. I'm not going to go back and fix it unless I have extra time. That's, part of your project and part of the choices that you make, right? Whereas, say, you have to like redo that hem like 3 times, but when you finish it, it is like glowing and you are so happy with it.
That's such a good feeling.
It is a good feeling, but sometimes it's hard to get to the point where you're like, I have the energy to try this again for the 3rd time, For some, it's like, it's either going to be done however it's done, or it's not going to be done at all. And I totally get that.
Yeah, and throwing this thought out there again. I know we've said this before, but like it's okay if like you're coming up on the deadline for the contest and you're not ready.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can make that decision of, well, I'm going to take what I have and enter it, or not this time.
Mm-hmm.
That is your choice to make, and it is totally valuable to make that choice. It's hard. It's crazy hard. Yeah, but that way, like, for example, this one gets me right now. Level Up Expo's coming up in a few months.
Ooh.
I love that contest.
Less than a few months, I think. Not to scare you.
Yeah. I've already made the decision that I can't make it. Not to the level that I want to have the costume ready for it.
Sure.
The costume that I want to take to it. I'm like, I could try, but that's going to be a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of stressful days and nights with a full-time job on top of everything. I'm just like, this is just not going to happen. And with other things happening in my life, it's like, I need to bow out. Sure. So it was a hard decision to make. I was like going back and forth quite a bit. You can ask Alex and Luis that.
I am very proud of you, though, for making that hard decision. That is really difficult.
The fear of missing out, the FOMO, is real strong.
Really, I get it. I so get it.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good point. Like sometimes you're like, oh well, like if it isn't this competition, when is it going to be? And in the moment, it can totally feel like, oh, I'll never have a chance at XYZ again. But you will.
Yeah.
There's always
I have to keep reminding myself that it's like there's a lot of good stuff that's coming down the pipeline, and those are going to only make me better in the future too. So
that's true. I think in that same vein, when we were talking about, taking the time to do it in a way that you're happy with, I just want to I guess clarify with that can be not just like the quality of your seams. That can be something like how tidy the wig is after you've styled it, whether or not you can still see your crimp lines. It can be like whether or not your armor has the right finish on it, whether you've taken the time to sand it so that it looks the texture you want it to look. That can be whether or not your costume, this is one that gets overlooked a lot, but whether or not your costume really fits you well. Like I don't know, it is always like frustrating when I've spent a lot of time on a costume and then I put it on and something doesn't fit right. Like the sleeves are too short, or the shoulders aren't laying right on my back, or I didn't make the pants long enough, or whatever it might be. But I think especially in a competitive space, like making sure that your costume fits you well is a big one.
And that can be also a big thing, especially for masters. Now, like journeymen and especially beginners, I'm not going to count that too much against them because I'm looking more for other things with their skill levels. But with masters and the latest, news that has come up with the cheater at some convention, I can't remember which one exactly, using a bot cosplay from another crafter. They could have been called out if the judges had noticed. And I'm not blaming the judges at all, by the way. I want to put that out there because spotting this stuff is hard. But the costume doesn't even fit the person who cheated. And they were competing on a master's level. And that, now I'm going to use that as like okay, if they can explain to me what's going on here, that can help. And also like other things will be able to help behind that. But also as a master, your stuff should fit you.
Yeah.
We're going to go over that more later.
Okay. One of the other things I wanted to mention is, and this one I might I don't know, maybe controversial opinion, but your build book. Don't get me wrong, I love to see a build book that people have spent a ton of time on and gotten like swatches and glitter, and it looks like this amazing scrapbook of their entire journey through making this costume. But I would always rather, like, if I'm seeing the costume and there's still like issues that could have been fixed in the costume, I will like 100% wish that they had put a little less time on their book and more time on the costume.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. There was actually a question in that Facebook group that I mentioned that was like, how much is too much for a build book?
Sure.
And my answer to that is, if it's a step-by-step tutorial, it's too much. Because you're going to have 5 minutes with the judges at the very least. I think, here's maybe a controversial opinion on this one. I think any contest that does less than 5 minutes is doing disservice to their judges and contestants.
Sure.
But that's a big opinion I have.
I agree with it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, less than 5 minutes is just not enough time to ask the right questions, to get the details you need, and to look at the build book. And the build book should be something that doesn't necessarily have to be done last, but you want to make sure that your costume is ready and that your build book shows your progress and the parts that you are most proud of to show.
Right.
And, like if you ran into a problem and you had to remake something, show that in your build book.
Definitely.
If there's something that the judges won't be able to see in person because it's like, oh, hey, I built this, I don't know, I'm going to make up something off the top of my head, a pretend electrical guitar. And I can't open it to show you the inside because it's all sealed now, but here's a picture of it in the build book.
Or even I made like 15th century correct underwear and you aren't comfortable with the judges getting that close to you. Take pictures of the build, put it on a mannequin, like show the inside seams so they can see it.
Yes, that right there. Use it as a way to summarize your build and the parts that you're most proud of, so that it can also be viewed in a short amount of time. While, if you do have the time, do make it look professional and really good looking too.
Yeah.
With themes and stuff like that. Because I think those are fun. They definitely do stand out more in the judges' eyes.
Yeah.
For sure. Like there's definitely a reason why that works, but also,
yeah, like for sure,
if your costume doesn't match it, it's going to be a weird kind of contrast.
Right. I was going to say, either way, it makes your costume memorable. I just want to make sure the judges are remembering you for the right reason,
Yes.
Like, I feel like the main point of build books is to, first of all, show your work. It's like, when you have a math test and they're like, show your work.
Boo.
I know. I don't like it either.
I say as an old math tutor kind of thing.
But, you have to show the background, like why, how, what you did to make it. And have those pictures there as kind of like, I don't want to say proof, because I'm sure there are ways that people can fake a build book, but it gives the judges some reassurance that you know what you're talking about, that you at least have chronicled the journey of creating this.
Yeah. And on that note too, like another thing that comes up a lot is, I'm cosplaying a character that has some unrealistic physical trait that I can't do. There was a question about like number of fingers on a hand. Sometimes cartoons have 3 or only 4 fingers, but we have 5. You can show that in the build book. You're like, hey, this is the design for the glove of this character with 3 or 4 fingers. Here's my design with 5. And it could just be as simple as just adding those extra fingers and you being like, it's because I wanted that dexterity.
Yeah.
Like I saw a really cute version of a human version of the Cult of the Lamb that had the lamb with 3 little hoofs for, on each hand. And I was like, that is so cute. There's no way I'm going to be able to hold anything.
Sure.
So I didn't do it.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's like it's a choice that is a reasonable one to make, and you show how you alter the design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's a great point. One of the other important things your build book should have is like the character references. So we know like not only like here's the work that you've done, but what was it that inspired you? Where Mercedes is saying like if you took an existing design and made it like, you know, more realistic to fit on a human instead of an animal character. If you're taking, you know, design elements from like maybe the 1950s and applying it to Dragon Ball Z, you know, what are you doing in your build book to show what inspired you, you know?
Absolutely that right there.
even your own sketches, if that's what you went off of, like make sure and that I'd make that sound like even your own sketches, as if that's not a really cool thing to put in your build book.
It is super cool.
Right. The more thorough you can be with like what you referenced and what your idea was going into it, the better.
Mm-hmm. You know, and that comes down to like let's say you're like, I wanted to cosplay Tifa from Final Fantasy VII, but I'm not comfortable with my midriff showing. You know, you can show how you altered the design to fit you. Not everybody is Tifa shaped.
Sure.
You know, so you can show how you've modified the design to be complimentary on you and still be Tifa, still have those Tifa vibes. To me, that is so important.
I mean, and I would love to see something like, you know, I wasn't comfortable with XYZ on that costume, so I researched what kind of martial artist uniform her fighting style is inspired by, and I built that element in so I'm not as uncomfortable. That is so cool. That means like you put not only thought into your own comfort, but you put thought into why that should be built the way you built it.
Mm-hmm. Bringing it into like, would the character wear this? I love that. that brings some inspiration. Actually, I'm working on a couple of custom designs. So.
Nice.
Yeah, letting my creativity take flight. I haven't done this before, and it's really weird.
But yeah, I mean, I guess what it comes down to, my opinion on build books is they should be there to, they're kind of like the cherry on top, right? They're the sprinkles, the icing. They're there to make the sundae look, you know, extra shiny at the end so that we can appreciate everything that went into it. But
as a judge, you don't want to be handed an ice cream cone that's mostly sprinkles.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I love it. And like a lot of cosplayers also ask, like, if I make a change to the costume, if I do a crossplay of this character, or you know, an animal version, like for like if a furry wants to cosplay Link, do it. You're not going to be docked for that. If someone docks you for that, they're not judging for the right contest. Gajinkas are awesome. I remember cosplay contests are not look-alike contests. They usually have an element of craftsmanship and an element of performance that are put into them. You can take a bot costume to a cosplay contest, but make sure that they have a performance division in it. Because a bot costume is not going to win craftsmanship.
Exactly. On that note, we've talked a lot about craftsmanship in a competition, but what are some pitfalls that you've seen with performances where like someone will put a lot of time into whatever it is in their skit, but it doesn't necessarily pay off?
I I can tell you my pitfall.
Yeah.
I love the idea of fight skits. I never give myself enough time to practice them, which is why they always fall short.
Sure.
I know this flaw of mine, and I am ashamed of it, and I will still keep doing fight skits, and one of these days I'll give myself enough time to actually practice it.
Yeah. I was gonna say the number one thing that I see is making good use of the time that you have. So whatever time limit it is for it, if it's a skit, if it's a walk on, just know that you don't have to use that full time if you're done telling your story or doing all of your poses or whatever it is you wanted to do on stage. If you are like feeling like you are just filling time, like it's not keeping the energy up, maybe you're doing like an idle dance, but it's hard to keep the energy up for all 3 verses of the song. You can always
pick just one verse.
Yeah, pick one verse and just really kill it. Like, do it so solidly. The audience is going to remember the energy, I think, more necessarily than the dance moves themselves. Like, they are going to remember like how much fun and engaging your skit was more than they are that you like used the entire time. And I say this with dramatic skits, with comedic skits. If you ever feel like something is dragging to you, it is dragging twice as much to your audience. And that is such a bad feeling. So just trim what you can. Have people review your skit. I know that's always really hard. But
it is.
Someone you trust to give you constructive feedback on your skit. See if people who don't know what your skit is from understand it. I think that can be a huge pitfall when you're picking costumes to compete in that are just really pretty or like really obscure, but you loved the design. If your presentation on stage isn't something the audience can like enjoy and engage with, maybe rethink it. I have seen some people do amazing skits with shows I've never even heard of. And it's because they thought about their audience. They thought about, what if someone hasn't seen this? And will this still have, meaning for them? Will they still be able to understand it? Will they still enjoy it? So that's a big one for me. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think there's a pitfall, I guess, in assuming that everyone has seen whatever it is you're cosplaying from.
If that's definitely a big pitfall.
Inside jokes from the show, like it might be funny to a handful of people who are like really in that fandom, but are they your target audience, or are you trying to entertain the whole crowd? Are you trying to pitch to the judges? Like what is your goal? Yeah,
I love that. I'm going to throw in something kind of impromptu here.
Do it.
So not too long ago, I went to Life, the Universe, and Everything conference. It's a writing conference. There were 2 panels on dealing with failure and writer's block and things like that. And we're going to go over one of those more in depth in like the next episode. But one of them, and I'm making sure I'm giving credit to the guy who did the panel. It was called "Let Your Fears Disappoint You," and the panelist was Matthew Bachholt. He had a really good like analogy. Like going up on stage is scary.
Yeah.
Preparing for it is scary. But once you realize that it's just a stage, the other contestants are just as scared as you are, it becomes less scary. Your fears, let them disappoint you, that kind of thing. Like, you're scared of something that keeps tapping on the window and you find out it's just the branch outside. Eventually it becomes so normal that you're like, just chop off the branch. But he had a thing for the antidote to fear. The antidote to fear is experience. And if you fear something, you're probably just lacking in experience at this time. So step 1, flee to safety. So share your work with close friends and family, people you trust, okay? Whoever it is in your inner circle that you trust, be like, hey, what do you think of this? And this can be your skit, this can be your cosplay, this can be writing your intro to go on stage, any of those things.
Yeah.
It could be even your build book. Just go to someone you trust and, let them know, hey, I'm really serious about being good at this. So I want your honest feedback and comfortable feedback. Be kind. You have a dream of getting up there and winning Best in Show, right? Be kind to your dreams. Take it one step at a time. Once you've done your flee to safety and you've done that step, then practice and prepare. Find other cosplayers. In here he says other creators, so I'm just saying cosplayers, that you can share your cosplays with. Get constructive and actionable feedback. If someone says, your cosplay sucks, ignore them. They're not worth your time.
That is nothing about that is constructive. Like, what are you going to do with that? Like,
yeah, you can't. It's not actionable. It's not helpful. It's just dumb. Once you've done that with other creators, you can then, if you want to, the next step is called Stand Your Ground, where you find people outside of the cosplay community. And this one's real scary. And I don't know if we have to do this with cosplay so much, but but getting that feedback from people who don't know what you're doing. This would be, I don't know, like me having my grandmother look at something that I made, because she's not a cosplayer. She does some sewing, and being like, what do you think of this, Grandma? And she'd be like, you're crazy. But then she might tell me it's nice or something. But be aware that, there are going to be trolls on the internet if you do that. Remember, work on the actionable and constructive feedback. Ignore the trolls. And be determined every time you do this to learn at least one new thing. And then he ended that panel with our imaginations are scarier than reality. Just remember, if it bleeds, you can kill it.
Wow.
That's what he said. It was great.
Making your creativity into a threat.
I know. Once you've gotten that far, you can make a plan. Be specific about what your goal is, what you're making, who you're making it for, where you want to go with it, right? And if another person has done it before, you can do it too. And then be specific about your fears. What's scaring you about going on stage? And use that to help guide your next steps. So
nice.
Yeah. Anyways, I really loved that panel. It was very good.
No, that's great. I think that's some good advice that translates into a lot of different media. So
yeah. Thank you, Matthew Bockholt.
Nice. I'm trying to think of
unless I got his name wrong.
It's okay. If you do, then you can send the correct to David. And David, please put a correction in right here.
I wrote it down twice as Matthew Bockholt in my notes, so I think that is what it is.
Okay.
So, no, because if I wrote it twice, there's no way I would have wrote it wrong twice, especially since I was looking at his name tag. I think I got it. I don't know.
I believe in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust yourself.
Oh, I'm trying.
Oh, one of the other things, are there any other, I guess, pitfalls or mishaps or, things people should be careful of that you can think of?
I just see a lot of worrying over, contacts. You don't have control over your eyes. Don't worry about contact and eye color.
Yeah.
Let that be.
Oh, man.
I don't wear...
Especially on stage. I was going to say, making sure you have good vision on stage is very important. I have made that mistake before and it was miserable. So, don't sacrifice your health or your nerves or whatever it's going to be over, especially small things about your body that aren't something you can help. Not everybody can wear contact lenses. Not everybody is going to. I don't think I can wear colored ones, so I've just never tried it. Yeah, well, I know some people that can't wear them.
My eye doctor mentioned against it, so
Yeah, I think most eye doctors are against them.
Yeah.
Because they're not great for
I'm
your
protective of my eyes.
But I mean, even like your body shape is not something that you can just change. And not everybody is going to have a body that looks like an anime character who's like 80% legs and a 16-inch waist, you know? Like, be mindful of bringing these costumes to life, but in a way that is real for your body and no one else's.
And as you do more and more cosplay, you'll find, at least I've found for me anyways, maybe others have different feelings on this, but I've found that I've started putting more of me into my costumes. It is Link from Legend of Zelda, but it's my version of Link. It's with me in mind. And I think that I love seeing that when somebody comes into a contest, seeing that they put a little bit of themselves into it, of like, I really love this part of the character, and I wanted to exemplify that with X, Y, or Z thing that they added to the costume or embellished on it.
I was going to add, like, if the contest for any reason is judging you on any of those things, like the shape, color, whatever of your body, then it is not a contest that is worth your time. It is. Yeah. It is a
It becomes contest. A look-alike contest and not a craftsmanship one.
I mean, yeah, it is not great, and it's not great for anyone's self-esteem, honestly. It's just not fun.
Looking like the character feels like it's a huge part of the cosplay contest, but in reality, it's actually a lot smaller. It's about the craftsmanship and what you're putting into recreating this character in real life.
Sure. Which is not to say, like, I'm not going to give, like, extra points for someone who took time to do, like, prosthetics to make themselves look more like the character, or, like, took the time to learn how to do shading on their face to help their contour be more like the character, like, whatever it's gonna, like, there's always going to be,
because that's
ways you can, like,
that's still technique.
Yourself, it's technique and not us saying, well, you don't look like, your face isn't shaped like the character, you can't win this.
If anyone says that,
they are in a lookalike contest.
Wow.
Yeah.
My brain just said a lot of really mean things.
You enjoy, then that's fine, but that is not the kind of contest we're talking about. I don't know. Is there any others, like, do you remember some of your early competitions and some of the things you're like, oh man, I wish I had done XYZ differently? I think I absolutely have something like that, but you know what?
Yeah.
This one is so hard for everyone, because I know I do it myself also, but don't tell the judges what you did wrong. Like, 99% of the time, they will see it, and if they don't, and you got away with it, that's great. But, like, we want to hear about what you did right. We want to hear about what you're proud of. We want to hear about, like, what you struggled with, maybe, but, like, how you overcame that struggle. Like, we don't want to hear you say, like, oh, well, I messed this up, so don't look at that. Like, that just draws attention to it. Tell us the things you did right. Like, and if that means rehearsing a few times what that you're going to say, please do that. Because I would so much rather, like, be excited to hear about all the things that you worked really hard on and did well, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, because, like, you have 5 minutes with the judges, show them what you're proud of.
Yes.
They'll probably notice what you're not so proud of, but they're going to pay more attention to what you are proud of in that time frame.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time with what you did wrong.
Yeah. On that note, I think next time we want to talk about, like, some of the sportsmanship and etiquette things, or was there any you wanted to mention today?
I wanted to leave off on this episode with just a small bit on the sandbagging and cheating that happened at that big convention. can't remember which one it was. I didn't follow it really much, but I was very disappointed. The one where someone bought a costume from another cosplayer, took credit as their own, and then entered it into multiple contests and won awards for it. One, don't do that. And two, if you're a contest organizer or another contestant that's worried that, you don't want to be accused of this either, especially if it's not correct, I think it's very important to kind of lay down some things to help prevent that. There's actually an anonymous comment on the cosplay contest support group on Facebook that listed a couple of things that I thought were worth mentioning here on this podcast.
Nice.
So one was having the contest take pictures of the winners and post on their social media with tagging and all that kind of stuff. So that way, say in the middle of a contest, a judge is like, I swear I've seen this outfit before, and they won somewhere, but where was it? They can find it, by starting to look up the tags and things like that.
Do you, sorry, like just in case we have some beginners listening, do you want to kind of mention what sandbagging is?
Oh, yes. Sandbagging in cosplay contests is when you take a costume that you've created and you win at a cosplay contest, and then you take it to another cosplay contest of equal or lesser size and win again. That is sandbagging. Is punching down. A lot of people outside of the cosplay community, I should say, think that cosplay contests are about taking the same costume and the same song and dance to different competitions and just trying to win as much money as you can. It is not about that. It's about the individual person who's doing the craftsmanship. And if you're just entering the same song and dance to everything, it gets boring and it doesn't show any improvement on your part. Now, there is an exception to this. I do think that it is okay if you take a costume from a smaller contest that you've won and try and compete at a bigger one.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a better chance if you ask what you can do to improve before you, and then do those things to improve it before you go to the bigger contest. But that's moving upwards to tougher competition rather than punching down on smaller ones.
Yeah, nice. I would say that kind of thing also will absolutely depend on the competition that you're entering. Because some contests won't allow you to re-enter a costume, even if it's just been in another contest, regardless of if you've won or not. Every contest is going to have different rules. Yeah.
Like World Cosplay Summit, which is like the Olympics of cosplay. You can't have entered or shown that costume anywhere else.
Right.
It is to be debuted at their contest.
Right.
That's the point of it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just making sure you're like aware of those contest rules, and what isn't allowed. And if it feels wrong, like I swear I've heard this in a lot of like board games and things, but if it feels like cheating, it probably is. So listen to your gut and like be a good sportsman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, make sure you read through the rules before you go and enter a contest. Because of this thing that's happened, a lot of contests have either already in the past they're already doing this, and others are now taking note of, this is what this contest does, I'm going to do it too. If you do end up cheating in a contest, you could be banned from it for ever. And maybe even from the convention itself. And like there's understanding when it comes to like maybe you didn't understand the rules or a question, try and ask questions before the contest if you can. If there's something confusing in the wording, ask about it right away. But yeah, so the anonymous commenter continues with like having contestants, if they sign up for a contest, they have to send in they're saying like parts of the build book, but I personally think that like one or two, what does one contest call them? Proof of life.
Proof of life
is what it is.
Progress photos, showing where you're at, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that helps too. And then as a contestant, make sure you're in the picture. That helps a lot to show that you're the one making this. And if you're worried about someone stealing your work online, make sure you're in your progress photos and anything that doesn't have like you in it. Like I'll often like do pictures with like my wedding ring in the photo as I'm holding something up because that's my ring.
Sure. I'd say even it can help to have a social media presence, because there will be plenty of people who are like, oh yeah, no, I saw you working on this. There was a video of you, like that TikTok that you did where you were showing like how you finished your seam. Like that's just going to, you know, make your case even stronger if there's ever a question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just remember that, like, more often than not, there's going to be very experienced judges that are going to be looking at these costumes. And if you're a contest runner and you're trying to look for judges and you're trying to give room for like new judges to be coming in, make sure that most of your panel is still experienced judges and then maybe one new judge that's coming in. You know, just watch for that balance kind of thing. The last thing that was on the anonymous commenters list was having competitors sign a contract on entry that if they get exposed for cheating, poor sportsmanship, or sandbagging, they'll not only be banned from the contest, but probably from the convention or even other contests. It sounds harsh, but this is something that some contests already do.
Yeah, I mean, I think just knowing that, you know, cosplay contest runners kind of Facebook groups or, you know, cosplay contest question Facebook groups exist is enough to tell you that like contest runners and contest competitors all talk to each other. So if you burn bridges at one contest, odds are good, like, I'm not going to tell you that you'll be banned from other contests, but odds are good that whoever was running that contest might talk to someone else. So I think it's always better to like put forth your best sportsmanship. Maybe it's not even like a showrunner. Maybe it's just someone who you competed with that like who you were mean to in the like green room or something, you know. Like people talk, people watch what you're doing, people like see behaviors that aren't good or that are like repetitive or toxic. Like we're a small community.
If someone gets called out for cheating, whether that was called for or not called for, your reaction to that will be noted.
Right. Like I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And if I ever like suspect someone of cheating, the first thing I will do is I will like ask about the thing that they're telling me they made. Ask a lot of questions about that. I'm not going to come up at them with like an accusation of like, I don't think you made this. I want to give them the benefit to be like, no, tell me how you made this. Make sure that like I know that this was your work.
Absolutely.
I never want to be the one that's like coming up and saying like, you didn't do this. But if you're coming up to me with props that are still stamped with the logo of the company that made them and you're saying I made this, I'm going to have a problem with that.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
and that's, you know, thinking that you can go and sandbag at places, that's a pitfall of competition too.
Sorry, I didn't mean
one
to
that
get,
you
like,
shouldn't go down
heavy or angry or like scare anybody with this. It's just like I think some people think that their behavior is observed in a bubble, and it's like if you're not nice to people, that kind of karma comes back to you, I guess is what I'm saying. But be nice to the world, so the world will be nice back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that it?
I can push the button.
You can push.
We can now move on to Horror stories. Spooky, spooky, spooky.
Is there?
I'm logged into David. I know, I'm logged into David's thing. I just realized that there are buttons on the side.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Before we start the horror story, I wanted to add, like, if any of you at home, like, have a question or you're ever worried about, like, something that, like, might be on the line, or, like, you're worried that of how something in your costume will be received, or how you could present something, or you're just nervous and you've never done it before and you want advice, we are happy to, like, help you with that. We have a whole Discord. You can email us and we'll talk about those later. But, like, yeah, like, we are happy to be your cheerleaders also.
Absolutely. And once again, like, if you're like, oh, I'm too scared to talk to the cosplay Stitch and Seam, that is okay. I'm scared to talk to me sometimes too. But, like, pull in the opinions of those who are close to you, and then start venturing out to other creatives and, talk with them too. All right? It's all good.
Nice. All right.
Are we ready for official horror story?
Yes.
All right. I've got one from the Discord from Morning. I love you, Morning. All right. Okay. Now, so it says, okay, now that I'm slightly recovered from bonsai, we're not that far behind on these. I can share a fun thing that happened while I was crunching. I had wanted to do a quicker project to take to Nintendo Live. I would only have a week or two because of my work and wanting to finish my big competition piece. I found a perfect discontinued wig on Arda for almost half off. It was great for a gender-bent Link, so I ordered it. Well, apparently I clicked the 21-inch instead of 23-inch. My head is 22 inches.
Oh, I've done that.
So I thought... my head is 22 inches, so I thought it would be fine. What I forgot to think about was my 3.5 foot long, medium thickness hair. That's a lot of hair.
That is.
I tried it on and it was a little off, but it seemed fine. It wanted to slide, but a few more pins fixed that. The ponytail also caused it to be back weighted, so more pins were always expected. However, at the con, I was so worried. I just kept adding bobby pins as we were walking around. Oh no. I had so many that when I got home, I didn't count. I got annoyed and just gently in quotes, pulled off the wig. Oh. Apparently not as careful as I thought. I ripped out a chunk of my bangs. Ow. Thankfully, it's in the center. It's not super noticeable, but I was much more careful when I removed the wig for the next convention. And Morning is adorable and has a picture of it. Oh.
Owie.
Owie indeed.
Yeah.
That is a good chunk of hair. Ow.
Man. Well, if you're all at home, want to tell us about what you're competing in, or if you have a horror story, a happy story, or you just want to say hi, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. The first is our email, which is cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or
you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and fill out the contact forms there. Keep an eye out, those who emailed. I think the farthest one back is November with topic suggestions. I'm putting them up on our calendar, and I'm really excited to go over them. So keep an ear out for that. There we go. I can words.
Keep your lists out and your ears out.
Keep your listening out. That's what I was going to say.
Yes. Thanks as always to Macy Roberts for the use of her music as our theme song, and to David Jeffress for Faye's amazing podcast. How are those going?
They are going so stinking great. Thank you so much for asking, Pannon. I know that in the deepest part of your hearts, you really care about the passion projects that I have. Isn't that right? Yeah. The urge to just allow that, like, 2.5 seconds of silence that Pannon left for me to just throw this in here was just very, very strong. So I hope you, dear audience member, really appreciate that. Also, you can check out my podcasts, Comic Trades Monthly, where we talk about a comic book podcast in a book club format, or The Last Voice, which is a Utah-based audio drama. It's all scripted, sound effects, and all the whole 9 yards about zombies surviving the end of the world, alternate history. It's a fun thing. Go check it out.
Awesome. Speaking of competitions, since that was our episode, did you hear about the cosplay weightlifting championship? They've really raised the bar.
Okay, okay, I'm groaning, but also I want that to be real. I will watch that.
I mean, did you see all the last Olympics? There was all the weightlifters doing one piece poses. Anyway, bye guys. Yes! We'll see you later.
Bye.
Have fun.